Alrighty, that calls us to order. I believe we have a quorum. I believe I counted 7 or 8 in the room, and but we will go around the room and start with introductions, and then we will go to elected officials online. Go ahead, Andy. Start with you.
Andy Gunning with PPACG.
Kelly Case, Mayor of the City of Woodland Park.
Todd Dixon, Mayor of Green Mountain Falls.
Yeah, how do you turn? Oh, Nancy Fortune, Mayor Pro Tem Manitou Springs.
Lynette Criverson, President Pro Tem at Large, Colorado Springs.
Michelle Tallarico, District Council 3.
Colorado Springs.
Thank you, Colorado Springs.
Jeff Bond, representing Colonel Ken Clark, Schriever, Peterson, and Cheyenne Mountain.
Holly Williams, El Paso County, the only commissioner here today that I can see, and also the first vice president.
I assume of the board up here.
The PPACG
There's elections
board.
going on. I was just a little punchy. Everybody identify where you're from and what.
I'm not running for president of the United States. No.
Okay.
Okay.
I thought we maybe had an announcement there or something. All righty. Okay. And online, I have Steve King from Monument.
Yeah, Steve King, Monument, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay. And Annie King. Durham. Annie Durham. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Annie Durham, Mayor of Cripple Creek.
Okay. Any other elected officials online? Not seeing anybody. Okay. Well, that does establish a quorum. Is that correct?
Yes, we needed 7. We're good to go.
All right. So our first item on here is item 2, agenda approval. I would entertain a motion.
So moved. Holly Williams.
Second, Mayor Dixon.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Seeing no one raising their hand rapidly for deliberation, please vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, public comments and presentations. Number 3A, staff recognition, Mr. Barker. That's not Mr. Barker.
Jerry's going to say a few words first.
All right, okay.
Morning, Madam Chair and Board. Cherry Hoffman, PPACG HR Generalist. This month, we have the pleasure of celebrating Jody Barker's 5-year anniversary with PPACG as the PPAAA Director. Jody sees one of our larger teams under the PPACG umbrella. He is probably one of the kindest people I have ever met. His knowledge of all things related to aging and all the laws that envelope our aging population always amazes me. Jody has great leadership and his door is always open. Employees can come to him with concerns, ideas, questions, and he takes everything in stride. Jody's calm demeanor, willingness to truly listen and problem solve make my position a little bit easier. Jody, you are truly appreciated at PPACG. Thank you.
How many years did you say? Oh my goodness, he's been here longer than 5 years.
Sure. Let's get a picture of Jerry. Yes.
He's still not turned blonde, so he looks like.
Yeah.
And just before he sneaks away, because he's going to make an announcement as well, but you can also say a few words. But just Jody leads an amazing team. He's just an amazing leader for our AAA staff that have just such an incredible impact on our senior population across our 3-county region. He's a leader at the state as well with his counterparts across the state of Colorado, leader at the federal level as well, and stays involved in what's happening with federal legislative issues that impact all of this and impact our seniors. So we can't thank you enough for the great work that you're doing for us, Jody. So thank you.
Jody, you're one of those people that came in so seamlessly and things just went so smoothly. I mean, it just 5 years just shocks me that that's as little time as you're here.
Time flies when you're having fun, right? Yeah. COVID hit. Yes. Yeah. 5 or 6 months in, I thought I had it figured out. Oh, well, we turned where we needed to. We made sure that our older adults and their families were taken care of. And it's truly a pleasure to be an advocate for our older adults and families in this region. But there are a few of our staff behind me. If you're a PPAAA staff member, would you stand, please? There's a couple here. Now we've got a couple of Vista volunteers also helping out, and everybody else is at their desk. But this is what makes my job easy. It's folks that know the work that they do and how they serve our community is huge. And so it's truly a pleasure to be the director of the Area Agency on Aging, and thank you for those kind words, Sherry. So I'm, what am I? I'm also B. I'm 3B on the agenda, so we're going to keep rolling here. We're very excited to share, and all of you will get a copy of this. The Older Coloradans Act was signed into law in 1973, and Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging became an agency under that in 1974. And so here in just a few weeks, we're going to be celebrating our 50th anniversary. And so we've got some exciting presentations to share. We will be doing this during our regular Regional Advisory Council meeting. It'll be on Thursday, September 26th at 10:30. We'll go ahead and have our regular meeting at 10 a.m. and we'll rush through the agenda and get right to the celebration. So we'd invite all of you board members and anyone from your communities that you would like to extend this to recognize the fantastic work that's been done, not just by our current team, but by past teams as well across the region. And so we'll get each of you one of these flyers. If you would like an electronic copy, please just let me know and we'll get that to you as well. So thank you so much. And again, I really appreciate being honored today, and know that we do have a fantastic team serving our older adults across our 3-county region. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jody. And congratulations again on your 5 years. Thank you. All righty, that takes us on to item 3C, public comments. Public comments can be made before or during the meeting. Public comments during the meeting is limited to 3 minutes and can be done at the meeting location or remotely by using the posted meeting. And it's limited to 3 minutes and can be done at the meeting location. Oh, I went to the same line. Okay. Microsoft Teams. Individuals are encouraged to notify the meeting organizer at or before the start of the meeting with the agenda item they would like to comment on. Public comments can be submitted before the meeting with the agenda item they'd like to comment on. I do know I have some public comments in the room. We'll go ahead and start with Andy since you're up there, and then we'll go to Councilmember from Springs. I'm hesitating to say your name because I know I'm going to reverse Iverson Crow. See, I knew it. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of introductions actually that I wanted to make. Some new staff members that have come on board. Well, starting with one promotion, Lucy Crandall is here. Say hi, Lucy. She's our new family caregiver support center supervisor. Many of you have worked with Kent Matthews in the past. He retired last month. I'm really super excited to have Lucy be promoted within that work unit and now is taking over. She is joined by a new family caregiver support planner, Kendra Carpenter. I don't think that Kendra's with us today, but you'll see her at an upcoming meeting as well. But we've got our team all fully fleshed out there now. Also want to introduce Angie Martell. She's our new environmental planner. So we finally have super excited to have Angie. We finally have full-time dedicated staff to help us with our environmental issues, air quality, water quality, and all of that good work. So you're going to be seeing a lot of Angie here in the coming weeks, months, and years. So really happy to have her on board. And then finally, just want to introduce a couple of our new AmeriCorps Vista volunteers. We've been working with the federal government where we get AmeriCorps Vistas, where the feds pay for their service for a year. We get them for about a 12-month period. And we've got two with us today. I want to introduce Ben Liu. He is going to be working with us with our travel training program here within PPACG with our mobility coordinating work. And also want to introduce Chris Leroy. He is going to be working with us with our AAA volunteer assistance program, trying to boost up our volunteer network for senior needs across the region. So super excited to have Ben and Chris join us today. Chris is from North Carolina, Appalachian State. Ben, originally from New Jersey, University of Illinois. Was it? Okay, good. Super happy to have them on board here for the next year. So thank you, guys.
Good morning. I would like to introduce the Colorado Springs new Public Works Director, Rich Mulady. You could please join me. Rich joins us from Stormwater in Colorado Springs, and I don't know where you were before Stormwater. Were you always in Stormwater?
I was a consultant.
Okay. It's been about a month, but if you would like to say a few words and talk a little bit about your history and background, an engineer from private sector into Colorado Springs. I know we're all super excited to have him stay within the system and come up because stormwater is such a big deal for all of us, as we know, the county and the city. So having that knowledge is great. So welcome, and please introduce yourself.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the introduction, Council. I appreciate it. Yeah, so maybe I'll just tell you, 2 minutes of my history. I know you guys have a lot of business to do. So I've worked for the city for about 8.5 years, actually, and I ran the stormwater enterprise and then also parking, actually. It's kind of a funny mix, parking enterprise and the stormwater enterprise. But my background, actually, I'm a professional engineer. I before coming to the city, I worked for a consultant in town here. I actually did a lot of work for PPACG back in those days, and a lot of that work was related to the Waldo Canyon fire and some restoration planning and things like that. So I'm definitely familiar with this body and happy to be in this role as Public Works Director from the city to bring what I can and bring the help I can. So thank you for your time and thank you for the introduction. And my door is always open. I carry my phones every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I'm happy to help. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for stopping by. Appreciate it. Is that it for internet? Okay. Is there anyone online or in the audience that would like to speak to anything not on the agenda today? Is there anyone in the audience that's not a staff member today? Nobody online, Jared?
Madam Chair, we do not.
Okay. Alrighty. And so I'm going to go ahead and close public comment then and go on to item D, military installation. And you're in the room, so you get to go first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for board directors. Jeff Bond with Peterson, Schriever, and Cheyenne Mountain Space Force installations, here to give you an update on a few items of interest. The first item is Peterson Space Force Base's North Gate project and the guard replacement shack that started in April. It's potentially not on track to be completed in the middle of November. There's a conflict with the paving contract, and we're going to be working that aggressively to come to quick resolve. We'll continue to keep you updated. I know it has impact on the Powers Corridor and Mark Shuffle, and we're as eager as everyone to make sure that our travel corridors are fully functional. Space Base Delta One hosted Congressman Lamborn's Chief of Staff, Military Advisor, and Regional Representative for a orientation focused on critical infrastructure. This was on August 29th. The leadership visited Cheyenne Mountain, Schriever, and Peterson, received several informative briefs that had to do with our power infrastructure and transportation requirements. Some of those issues obviously tie into the infrastructure that's outside the installation as well. The Schriever parking lot repaving project continues, and for anyone who's been out there understands that you may be parking at quite a distance from the building you intend to visit. If you do make a visit now through the early winter, when the project's estimated to be completed, you'll want to budget a little extra time and ensure you have some walking shoes. The Peterson employees and their families, residents continue to embrace the Powers Airport Interchange project. The communication with CDOT and the city have been exceptional. We're really appreciating the 2-week heads up window so we can inform our people appropriately to deconflict any potential problems that are coming on. Subject to any questions, those are the issues that I have to brief this month.
All right. Any questions for Jeff and Peterson? Great. Thank you very much. Oh, you have a comment? Okay.
So on Friday, I attended, just the Air Force Academy is actually within my commissioner district, and I attended the Kuchera Legacy Center Ribbon cutting, it is on the east side of Falcon Stadium. Very nicely done. I will tell you, as a lady, there are twice as many, maybe even 3 times as many female restrooms as males. Yay. And it's just really nice. They did all the fundraising for it. El Paso County did do some bonds for enterprise zone funds or something on that, but it's just a really nice addition to the stadium. So go Falcons.
Nice. Do we have any military online today?
Madam Chair, I don't recognize any of the names as being from military installations.
Okay. If you're military, just go ahead and raise your hand and I will come back to you, but I know there's a lot of ceremonies and things going on today. So people are probably out and about at those and then get back to their regular job. Okay, already that takes us on to action item 4, consent items. We have A, B, C, D, E, and F on consent. What would the board like to do to this? The motion?
Mayor Dixon, I'll move approval of the consent items.
Okay.
Mayor Case, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any deliberation? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. And that takes us on to action item 5A, CDOT 10-year project reprioritization. Jessica.
Chair and members of the board. Yes, so this item was brought to you last month and you were briefed on CDOT's request to reprioritize some of the projects and the funding within the 10-year plan for CDOT and PPACG. The details are outlined in the memo. And so basically what they're asking to do is shift some of the funding around in order to fully fund some of the higher priority projects. And so with that, there's zero net change to the total PPACG RPP 10-year funds. And the timeframes are just shifted based on realistic and actual need. I believe CDOT is on the line as well for exact details and questions, if anyone. So
yeah, John Hall, I'm online.
All right, you did make it. I know we had quite an extensive discussion on this and how it was going to work
Yes.
at the pre-meeting and answered a lot of questions where some of the money is going to come for to backfill some of these projects and why we're moving them around. And so I feel I had all my questions answered at the pre-meeting, but does anybody else have any questions on this item? And I want the record to reflect we've just been joined by Commissioner Stone. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions or lights on. Okay, that being said, what I would entertain a motion.
I would move approval of this item. Mayor Case, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on action item 5A. Is there any further deliberation? Seeing none, please vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Much appreciated.
Thank you for making it today at our odd time. Thank you. All right, that takes us on to information item 6A, Front Range Passenger Rail. John Leosatos and Andy Karjan, Front Range Passenger Rail.
In the interest of time, I'm just going to hand this over to Andy. He's here to give you a briefing on what they've been up to over the last, months really is the focus, but years in general. But we did want to focus on recent activities, not go back from the very beginning of time, just because we don't have enough time for that. That being said, any of your questions are on the table. Andy, I'll tag you out.
Thank you, John. So I'll start at the beginning of time. We were created way back. No, I'm just joking. My name's Andy Carson. I am the general manager of the Front Range Passenger Rail District. It's a pleasure to be here today to give you a quick update on where we are. We'll go ahead into the first slide. It's just a high-level overview. For those of you who don't know, the district was created by the legislature in 21. We are planning on using existing infrastructure in order to keep the costs down and expedite the beginning delivery of rail service along the region. The region does stretch from the northern border of the state to the southern border of the state. The initial service area includes Pueblo to Fort Collins. The district has identified 9 primary stations along that corridor. to be a part of the initial service delivery. There's always options for additional stations, secondary stations, and we developed some processes around developing those in the future post ballot measure. Speeds will be competitive with what we see as automobile driving. So per statute, our implementation, we need to be competitive with travel time for the automobiles. Generally what we're looking at is delivering some initial service up north by 2029 and full service on the corridor by 2035. Next slide, please. We are in the midst of a lot of planning, and I'll speak to that here more in a second. The initial, not the initial,
Just a second. You said 2029 up north begin service, and then you said really fast down here. What was the year?
For the full corridor, 35.
35?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. The federal service development plan is underway. We're about halfway through that. There will be an alternatives analysis presented at the end of this year that kind of synthesizes what the planning has been to date, and then create a recommendation for that service moving forward. That will be informed by some of the conversations that are going on right now. Next slide, please. Local station planning is a major effort that the district is undertaking as a part of this conversation. We've enjoyed having conversations with Colorado Springs. As a matter of fact, we just met, the district came down and met with Rich and his crew to talk about the Colorado Springs station here next to Olympic Park on the east side of the tracks. We're extremely excited to start having those conversations. It really represents the opportunities that we see along this corridor in those 9 primary station areas that develop economic development for the communities by bringing the project to them, but also more importantly for us, not more importantly, but just as importantly, kind of that connectivity, the true benefit for delivering it and bringing this new transportation option to the region is to increase the connectivity, not only via these rail stations, but in existing transit services as well, and connect those existing services to what we are planning around the stations at the local level as well.
So I have a question. Will there be a transit hub near this station as well? Because if that's Giuseppe's Depot, where will the transit hub be? And that might be a Rich Mulady question.
Yeah, it's a Rich Mulady question, and we are working with him and your team on kind of how to develop that. We are in the first steps of it, but that's the exciting part, is we're able to develop and have the conversations around that.
And then given, which we'll talk about later, the changes in policy directive 14, will we be seeing any of this money here before in the next couple of years? Sounds like you're building the northern area first.
I don't know what policy 14 is, but I can speak to whether or not you'll see the money. A couple of things, and actually, if I may, can I just put a pin in that and then get through a couple of slides and I'll circle back around?
Sure.
Thank you. All right, so next slide, please. So here's where we start getting into the policy conversations. The last conversation, and as we move forward, I always like to say, this is a complex project. It's a mega project. It's a huge endeavor with many, many players and many moving parts. There's planning, which we've alluded to. There's politics, which are ongoing, as you can imagine. It permeates throughout the process. And then there's also policy. And this speaks to some of the policy conversations that we're having. House Bill 1012, these are 3 bills that passed last year. 1012 was a cleanup bill for the district. Senate Bill 184 created a rental car fee that is dedicated to CTIO within CDOT that is able to leverage some of those fees for ongoing capital construction. Senate Bill 230 was an oil and gas fee that it was created in order to help pay for transit across the state in a variety of different ways. I'm going to focus now on Senate Bill 184 because that's the immediate conversations that we're having. Next slide, please. On 184, there's a lot of conversations right now that we're having between the state, CDOT, RTD. The direction for 184 was 2-part. That fee, which we talked about in the beginning, that's estimated to generate around $60 million in the beginning first year, which will be next year. And then some additional funding ongoing after that based off rental car fee, revenues coming in. The second part of the fee, or the second part of the bill, was a requirement to collaborate with CDOT and RTD to prioritize service up north. That's not a new thing. And that's been a conversation that we've been having from day one, even prior to the district being created, in recognition of kind of the political conversations that have happened up north with fast tracks, RTD, the vote that they provided about 20 years ago to get some funding up there, and the implementing language for the statute for the district back in 21 that the legislature passed also identified the first phase of the project should be prioritized up north. And that's just the normal way that we approach mega projects like this. And it's not a prioritization or anything. It's just, even with the GAP project on I-25, it was built in phases. And so that's how we are approaching this conversation. It is important, though, to have the conversations that we are right now and not lose sight of the entire corridor project. This isn't just a project that is from Denver to Fort Collins. It's a project that stretches across the region. That's why the district created. That's what the conversation has been from the very beginning. And as a matter of fact, it started down here in the South with the Southwest Chief Rail Commission. And then it, kind of emphasized the full corridor aspect of this. And so that's what the district continues to communicate during these 184 discussions. This is a first phase of the larger project. There are many ongoing conversations to be had with Colorado Springs and Pueblo, and the full corridor will be brought forward as part of the political conversations moving forward towards a ballot measure in 2026. Next slide, please. So quickly looking ahead for the next 2 years, getting towards 2026, we've got the service development plan that should be done in the next year. We have the alternatives analysis that's coming at the end of this year. With the completion of the formal federal planning process, that moves us into formal negotiations with the railroads, BNSF and Union Pacific, as well as getting into the NEPA process. Mentioned the railroad agreements. Financial plan obviously is going to be part of that. We are required, the district, to have a financial plan that can be publicly available prior to going to the ballot. There's also community education and outreach, which is what we have planned to do. What part of this is, we have already, as part of the district, met with all of the 9 station areas, the municipalities that are part of the corridor, had conversations with county commissioners, NPOs, a wide variety of coalitions. Major part of the next 2 years will be the effort around coalition building, leading all into a ground game that we can hand over to a campaign to pass a ballot measure in 2026. Next slide, please. And with that, I went through that very quickly. I recognize that, but I also wanted to leave some time for some questions and dialogue. Thank you.
Commissioner Williams?
Yeah, how far out does the tax go? It's not all of El Paso County. It was within so many miles of the rail.
It's basically the city of Colorado Springs that's incorporated in the NPO, if I'm not mistaken, ma'am. That's what the boundary is. But you're correct. It is not the entire El Paso County.
So then would it also be Fountain
Yes.
and Palmer Lake?
He pulled them out
Monument?
back up, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So when I asked about policy directive 14, which is CDOT's overriding policy on how they're spending money in roads, they're changing it so that they've moved to an appendix, their willingness to reduce congestion and provide reliability for those of us Coloradans who love our cars. And they're purposely moving more money into buses and trains. And so that just is a frustration that it looks like we're going to be waiting as to pass a ballot initiative and still maybe even waiting until 2030 or after for a station and a transit hub. And I'm just wondering how, CDOT's going to keep up on its money to us as to what we need for our region.
Thank you for that question and opportunity to clarify. So the CDOT fees don't come to the district. We don't get any of those monies. So we're not responsible for any of that distribution, and we won't be part of that conversation. Where we are part of that conversation and where the funding will come to the southern part of the district the quickest is passing a ballot measure. Once a district passes a ballot measure, that funding is available district-wide, and we can dedicate those funds where we need to district-wide in the south and in the north. The majority of the fees on the 184 process right now are going to be used for the northern portion of this conversation. doesn't mean that in the future, those fees can't be leveraged and won't be leveraged corridor wide for, the entire Front Range project.
Okay, and so if we pass the ballot measure, does it have to pass all corridor wide?
It's a 50+1 corridor wide.
Okay. I guess those are my questions. My last question is, are you going to have a train that looks like Broncos and a train that looks like the Rockies and a train that looks like the Avalanche? Because that's the only reason why I'm riding it.
Or maybe if we do the Rockies train, it will change the narrative.
And we'll have to get a switchback train too.
I really appreciate that because it allows me the opportunity to kind of comment on what we are looking at in regards to the service that we can provide in this idea of what we are building. It's not your typical commuter rail conversation. This isn't RTD light rail that we're discussing. It's an opportunity for us to utilize a service that connects a larger region, faster speeds, fewer stations and whatnot. When we've talked to folks about what the value of that kind of service is and what we've talked about with other corridors around the country is it's a fascinating conversation to be here now developing a service post-pandemic because transit ridership nationwide and in Colorado has changed post-pandemic. And a lot of people say the benefit that this brings to them is one, it's an option that they don't have now. And that's a wonderful opportunity for us to continue having that conversation moving forward with a congested highway that is limited in growth and opportunities for expansion in the future. The second one is just like what you said, these special events that people can use to come down to Colorado Springs, to go up to Denver, to travel around, whether it's higher education, to get up to the communities, that have the institutes of higher education, or with military and the Air Force Academy down here. The corridor really offers a lot of these opportunities to get to these specific locations, less of the, I'm going to jump on this train and travel to work. So I don't think we'll have a Bronco train. I don't think we'll have a Rockies train, but we will have trains that are able to travel there.
I think they should be paid to advertise. I mean, they should pay to advertise.
You never know. I mean, we are all about keeping it real and keeping costs down. Thank you.
Mayor Case, I saw your light on for a minute. Did you have a question? Okay, all right, that's fine. Okay. Okay, you said you had meetings all up and down the Front Range with people. Can you tell me the locations of those meetings, please?
There have been like 60+ meetings that we've had, so I can't off the top of my head. No.
Can you tell me the ones that were held in El Paso County, please?
So for the ones in El Paso County, the main focus that we've had is with the city and city planning staff around station area development. It's one of the areas that I'd really like to get down here and have more conversations with you all around how do we start developing a ground game internally.
So they weren't community meetings, because the impression you gave was they were community meetings.
No, I appreciate the opportunity to clarify. No, we have not had outreach and community meetings around this. One, the planning process hasn't been completed, so there hasn't really been a narrative for us to say, this is what we will present to you, this is what the service will be. Now we're getting to a point, and so this community meetings will be focused in a 2025 timeframe, and we haven't had that kind of narrative yet. Does that make sense?
Well, that answers the question. It kind of seems like you're getting in the caboose in front of the engine if you're not asking the community what they want for this transportation need. If they're really going to use the service. I think we all have seen the numbers that have come out of the RTD in Denver and some of the issues with there. So that's why I just think community input is super important.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
And I would like you to be considerate of the communities that are going to have these trains going through their communities with zero benefit to them, because, as far as everyday benefit to them, because going to be a lot of congestion and issues, potentially happening in the cities that these trains run through, that our citizens depend on those streets. But so I pulled up the bill. If anybody wants to pull it up, everybody keeps saying 184, and I want everybody to know it's 24,184. And so 24,184 states that the fee will begin being collected in 2025. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Next year?
Yes.
Okay, and you're not anticipating having anything ready to go until 2029 up north. Is that correct?
That's our goal.
Okay, and I'm really, really happy to hear you say that you're concerned about the military congestion and all that kind of stuff, because that's super important to us down here. But as I read through House Bill 24-184, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't see where all the money within this bill being collected for these rentals necessarily has to go to the Front Range Transportation Project. And I want to make sure you're aware that we do have a second rail project going down here in El Paso County that we're looking for funding and grants and things for. And I do have Kimberly Bailey here, who I'll call on her in a minute. She's been kind of the one leading, not kind of, she has been the one leading this. But so I'm curious, if you're going to be collecting all this money, you're not going to be spending it. We have a project that's like ready to go. So it seems like there could be some sharing of those funds to keep some of those funds being collected in El Paso County, for this project for the for the Southern Colorado Rail Park. Are you familiar with that project?
No, ma'am.
The Southern Colorado Rail Yard project is being done essentially down by Ray Nixon Power Plant, if you know where that is, down I-25, to help our military installations out with having a rail spur directly into Fort Carson eventually, and taking a lot of the big trucks off of I-25. So a lot of the issues that you're talking about as far as, traffic and not being able to expand the highway and everything, a lot of that could be potentially addressed with this project that is almost shovel ready if we can get the next grant. I mean, we're getting super close. So Kimberly, can you just kind of come up here and address kind of some of the concerns that we have on this, trying to see if because I really think we have a golden opportunity here to address some of the issues that El Paso County is frustrated with, all this money from these collections going out of our county to support a service that you just said we won't even see anything until 2035. And so I think we have an opportunity for us to look at sharing those funds with a faster project that could really, really affect congestion down in this area, and all the way up and down the same corridor you're talking about. It could really, really help address the congestion and not having those darn long military convoys going down the freeway breaking down, right, Jeff? Anyways, Kimberly.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chair. Kimberly Bailey, Economic Development, Urban Renewal. I've been in front of this group numerous times in our legacy efforts regarding this initiative to support resiliency for the military. It is a regional effort, and really logistically, the City of Colorado Springs Public Works Division has put in a recent Chrissy grant application for the fall cycle. And so that individual who's been recently appointed, nice to meet you today, may have further updates on the progress of that federal initiative. But going back to the chair's sentiments is, this is something that has been in the pipeline for 15 years. It is a regional coalition effort. And if there is a means to derive some upfront funding on the onset of this, we will not realize any improvements with the passenger rail until the 30 era. There may be some collaboration there. And I think that's what really needs to be discussed. I mean, logistically, we're all using the same rail line, right? The lines are not going to change, but spurs or annexation processes underway will derive that service that's needed for freight. And with PPACG's recent freight study that just got done with the state this year, I think there's some ammunition behind that initiative that is very credible, and something that should open that dialogue a little further as you're proceeding in this effort on passenger rail. Anything else you would like me to share on that, ma'am?
You have hang on just a second, because I do have a hand up online, and I'm not sure if they would like ask you or I've lost his name. Andy, thank you. Too many Andys again, huh? All right, Andy, question. Mr. King, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Steve King, Monument Mayor Pro Tem, and obviously that train's going to come right through Monument without a rail station currently. But I'm not ever seeing this being economically feasible without subsidies in perpetuity. So are there any studies anywhere that reflect at any time this thing will be profitable, or will this always just be something for the taxpayers to continually bail out, for lack of a better term?
Well, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I think I respectfully disagree that it's a bailout, and I would argue that, we subsidize our roads via gas taxes and subsidies, and our roads don't necessarily pay for ourselves. And what we're offering is an opportunity for the voters to decide on a transportation option. And if they want to tax themselves, then that district is big enough and the tax base will be broad enough. And it was why it was created this way, in order to facilitate the completion of a transformational rail project for the region moving ahead. So I think that's, and I do understand your point of view in coming to the question, but I would just argue that, what the district is proposing is to go to a ballot with a plan to the voters. And if the voters approve that, then we have enough money to build a transformational project moving forward, as opposed to, trying to fee our way in or finance through an entire project. And, it's an important part for the northern portion to get the fee revenues there, because that does ultimately reduce the amount of ask that we need from the taxpayers. And so we wouldn't be double dipping on that. But, in the conversation, we've heard it a couple of times where the train will just blow by communities with no benefit because there's not a station there. And I'd like to push back a little bit on that, just because the creation of this track, of the service itself, is of a benefit to the region, whether there's a direct station in the community or not. The proximity to new stations, the proximity to new option for transportation in the region that doesn't exist now would be a benefit to your community. And I would just add that whether it's for Fountain or for Monument, there's always conversations to be had around secondary stations as we continue to grow a service in the future. So I do appreciate the input there.
But this is going to be on the existing tracks, or there's going to be new tracks?
This will be on existing tracks.
Okay. All right. Well, again, so I guess there's not a study anywhere that says that this will be able to pay for itself at any point in time. That's really what the question is. Is that correct?
Yes, there is no study out there that says that this option will pay for itself entirely.
Okay, thank you.
So, correct me if I'm wrong. I think I just heard you say that you essentially want all the money to go north to finish the first and just take our money north from this, from the car thing. Okay, well, that's how it kind of came across.
Let me just reemphasize what I've said earlier. The district is going to go for a ballot measure. The district does
I'm
not
talking
get
about
any of the fee revenues.
I'm talking about the car tax money that we would like to have that issue addressed. And I guess
I don't have
ultimately,
control over those dollars, ma'am.
yeah.
So CTIO within CDOT receives all of those funds. The legislation that you were just reading from dictates that they and that board will determine where those dollars are spent. There was a conversation during the legislature about maybe making some specificity within the bill, but the legislators decided not to. So the board of CTIO makes that decision, not the district board. I will say, however, I advocate strongly with my board members. As a matter of fact, I just did today on a planning committee for the district board, of which unfortunately there were no members from the southern portion of the district there to back us up. So I would say strongly, we have strong Councilwoman Crow Iverson as a strong voice on the board, as well as others. So we need to be sure to amplify the voices from the South to make sure that those dollars can be spent corridor wide. What I'm advocating for, and what the 184 process is perpetuating and starting, is in the areas of the district, this mega project, that are ahead of the game, and where there has been a political vote 2 decades ago to deliver rail, and when there's a statutory directive for the district and the state to focus on as a first phase of the entire project. Those are 184 conversations, but that doesn't predetermine where those fees and where the funds will be spent district-wide.
Okay. And then, so they passed it 20 years ago. Up north, they passed it 20 years ago. And are people riding on that today?
So the fast tracks vote 20 years ago was an amalgamation of many different projects, and it wasn't just a train to Boulder. The train
No,
from
I'm just,
River
I,
to
it's
Boulder
a
is
simple
not that.
question. I don't know that much about what's going on up there. So just,
No,
are
no,
the people
and
riding
again,
on that train today?
Not pushing back. I'm just trying to answer. It wasn't just a simple vote for a train. It was what passed was that was part of it. Do they have the train now to answer your question? No, they don't.
Okay. And I think I'm kind of concerned that your group is kind of siloed off from this other project. So I'd like to give you this information along with Kimberly's contact information, because I don't believe it has to be one project or the other. I believe that we can have both of these projects moving forward at the same time. I'm glad you're agreeing with me on that.
Yeah.
And because I really would like to see this Chrissy grant approved for getting us moving on it, and have the conversation for potentially some of those fees coming down here. But this project is going to deal with capacity. It's going to deal with Fort Carson. It's also going to ultimately deal with the widening of I-25, because we're restricted at Circle Drive. You've probably driven over that rail crossing that goes over I-25. We can't widen I-25 any further until that we have a spur down here, if this develops, and then that'll give us time to take care of one of the most vulnerable places that Fort Carson has in terms of preparedness. So I think it's just super important that your group has this information on both of these projects going on at the same time, and not feel like we have to compete them against one for another, and people get frustrated if we're having a lot of questions down here, because this is a very, very viable project. We need to move forward.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And let me just
Kimberly, is there
amplify
something
what
I
I
missed?
said earlier. This is about connectivity. It's not about competition. It's about collaboration. And that's where the district, stands with our board as well as folks. So no reason to compete. We are here to try and make all the rail projects be more successful statewide. Thank you.
Okay, great. Anybody else? Any questions? I got another hand online. I'm not sure who it is. It's all I can. Okay. Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
Rama?
Yeah, William Shaw, Mayor Pro Tem of Raymond. Now, as far as the transportation of commuters from Colorado Springs to Denver, there's a lot of congestion on I-25. I hate driving I-25 because of all the commuters. So getting the rail system in there, I think, would be very beneficial to a lot of people. But, you can call me old fashioned, you can call me old school, or whatever you wish to deem me as. But, pulling a tax from statewide without, for people that's not even going to have any benefit of it, I don't think is a feasible thing, especially since a lot of people in rural Colorado are on a fixed income. You got a lot of retirees out here and their finances are limited, and you want to take more money from them on something that they're never going to be able to use. I think this is poor planning, because there should be a business plan. Just like going to taxpayers is just like going to a bank for money. I don't see it should be any different. You have your business plan in order, tight and right, ready to go before you propose a bill to take taxes from it. I think it's being mishandled, and probably go back to the drawing board and learn how to conduct business with people before you start trying to take their tax dollars, especially since a lot of people are on a fixed income. And that's really all I got for now. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, if I may just.
Yeah, just to clarify, Rama would not be part of the taxing district. I mean, if you came in and shopped in the taxing district, you'd pay it, correct?
That's right. They're not in the district.
Just like you have to be part of PPRTA to collect the PPRTA
Correct.
tax.
Right.
Okay, right. Okay.
Yeah, and thank you. And sir, I really appreciate your comments, and I wouldn't call you old fashioned. Otherwise, I'd be calling myself old fashioned as well, because I agree with you. I think that a clear plan, clear communication to the communities about what the value is of the tax and of the project is essential in order to pass a ballot measure. And I've been working at the local government level for 2 decades now, and I believe that strongly. We are going through a business plan process. That's our federal service development plan. We need to prove what it is that we're doing and prove that this is a viable option in order to move to the next step. So that will be delivered. In addition to that, we will have a financial plan as well as a service plan that's required by law for us to deliver to the public and all the constituents have it available to them prior to going to a ballot. And then in addition to that, we're going to take the opportunity next year to do a lot of outreach. The district was created in 2021. We have a staff of 5. This is the largest taxing district in all of Colorado. It's one of the biggest transportation projects that the state has ever done. So a staff of 5 and a extremely limited budget. We talk about revenues going into the state for fees. None of those dollars came to the district. We have had one allocation of money from the legislature that we are getting through, and we are making things work on a clear and tight budget. And then the last thing I would say in regards to benefit to the local communities is, as we continue to go through this from the district point of view, it is extremely important for us to have, as part of a future ballot measure, a local share back to those station areas, those primary station areas along the corridor, in order to help develop those opportunities for connectivity and economic development at the local level, and not just require the locals to contribute taxpayer funding in addition to what they're already contributing to the vision of the corridor. Thank you.
Commissioner Stone.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you very much for coming to talk to us today. And I'm actually, despite some comments I made years ago, since then I've had the opportunity to utilize Brightline in Florida, which is a fantabulous public, both private and some cooperation with public, to create a really effective system there to help provide options, choices for folks moving around Southern Florida, getting ready to push up to Orlando now. A couple of things that I want to say about this, though, that I appreciate, and some things that potentially may be barriers, but maybe not, because it seems like there's some smart people getting around this. One, of course, using existing rail is by far the best way to go. They spent $1 billion in California, still don't have a mile of track. So it's great that we're going to use existing rail. I also really appreciate the transparency of presenting the plan and saying, you know what, we're going to build Northern Colorado first. And then we're going to go out and ask money to do it. And people get to know, hey, it's going to be 10 years before, or up to 10 years before Southern Colorado is going to see any benefit from this, that we're going to tax ourselves for 10 years to reach a goal. But at least you're being transparent about it, which is much better than just presenting the map and saying we need a tax to support this and vote on it. And then you come out 6 months later and tell them, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to invest all the money in Northern Colorado for the first 7 to 10 years. From that, though, it's going to create potentially when people are voting on this and knowing that they don't get it for 10 years, as to whether or not you can actually get the tax passed. Now, it may be that, the smart folks that put this together counted up all the population of Denver, Boulder, Longmont, Levelland, and Fort Collins and said, we got our number. If we get these people, they're going to get the benefit, and we're just going to tax the folks down south to get where we want to go. Obviously, the greatest concern about that is that I think everybody fears you're going to have a system set up that benefits the people of Fort Collins, Loveland, Longmont, Boulder, and Denver, and it never goes any further. And I'm reminded of a story told by the former mayor of, I believe it's Lafayette or Louisville. Some of you may have been at this meeting, where is now a Boulder County commissioner. They talked about this incredible transit station and transit area that they built, which is multimodal. They have parking, shopping, apartments. A very, very multi-use area that they created at the end of a line. This might have been fast track, so I'm not sure if it was related to that. That never got built. They built it in their town in anticipation of this coming, and it's never come. So that's my only fear and I'm extremely grateful that Woodland Park and Teller County are outside the taxing district for this, because just like the gentleman from Rama, the Mayor Pro Tem of Rama said, you get 25 miles away from this, you're really going to have no benefit from it. So the worst thing about having no benefit would also be getting taxed. So I'm appreciative of that, but I at least appreciate the transparency of it. I can see where, that kind of the scales have been stacked a little bit for the populations that will get benefit. I just hope that, that the plan actually goes goes through far enough that Southern Colorado does see the benefit. That's just my one big concern is that we'll be taxed not in perpetuity because taxes can be revoked, but but be taxed for decades and never see a benefit for Southern Colorado. So that's a concern, but I at least appreciate the transparency that at least people know that, hey, Southern Colorado is not going to see it for a while.
Yeah, and I just very briefly, I know we're bleeding into other people's time, so I'll be brief. It's very important for the district to be clear and honest in our communications. That's one of the priorities that I'm bringing to the district and what I want to clarify to people. I don't think it behooves us to go and tell people something that isn't going to happen, and then a vote happens and we come back and tell them different. I want to try and avoid that as much as possible. So I appreciate that. I just do want to clarify, if the district passes a ballot measure, it's a district-wide funding stream. It's not a fee dedicated to the south via to the north via legislation. So our board is represented, district-wide. It's not just a northern conversation. So that's why we are pushing so hard for a ballot measure in order to make this happen. And we believe at the district level, this won't happen district-wide without a ballot measure. And it will just be a financed lower service version of rail up north, and that will be the extent of the project. And that's something we very much want to avoid.
And I share that. That's what I hope it becomes. That, past experience looking back at what governments have done previously on rail and realizing that the best laid plans don't always lead to laid track. In this case, we have track. That's good. But even being able to see progress in the south to know that it's coming, whether that be land acquisition,
station development,
station development, corridor development within this, so that they know that, hey, they actually are investing money down here. It is going to come. But again, I'm grateful that I'm just outside the boundary of being taxed. So thanks.
I have Councilmember Crow Iverson, and then Mayor Shaw still has his hand up. If you don't want to comment again, if you could put your hand down, and then I have Commissioner Williams.
Yes, thank you, President. Lynette Criverson, City Council, Colorado Springs. I am the liaison to this board from PPACG. And I just want to let all my colleagues know that there is a strong voice in the South. Sal Pace, Jill Gabler is the vice chair, and myself are, they know exactly how we feel in the South about how all of this is constructed. And we do have a lot of hard conversations, and we have 2-hour board meetings. Sometimes they're 4-hour board meetings, and it is a political board. But to your point, I just wanted to reassure this group that the South is very strong in our opinions, and the South is holding them accountable. And Andy and I speak monthly, one-on-one as well. And I am also on the governance board. So I have, a lot of insight. We will be doing a lot of polling. We will be doing a lot of community outreach to find out what our citizens, to your point, Mayor, what our citizens think in the district. And I can assure you that we are taking a stand for the South, but we also are a regional board and regional minded. And some of the things going north is proof of concept. Let North go with proof of concept. Let them get the issues out of the way so that in the South, we don't make the same mistakes. Those are the things we're looking at now, and making sure that we do keep the funding. If a ballot measure, does pass, we will make sure we do keep the funding here. But I'm not opposed to them going north first with their funds for proof of concept. For let's find out what worked, what didn't work. We know it's not going to be ridership is not going to pay for this. We all know this now. That is not the intent, and we all know that. That's very true. But I just want my board to be reassured, and Andy can tell you as a liaison, the South is very strong willed and has a lot of pushback and opinions on that. But we are working together as a region as well. And, I don't know when this will happen, but in the next 2 years before the ballot initiative does come, there will be a lot of outreach. There will be polling. There will be citizens groups. And this is another reason why we're having this conversation today, is to start to kick this off for the next 2 years and get all those elephants out of the room. And, so ask the hard questions, and just so we can get that done and move forward with what we need to do forward. So I hope that helps a little bit, but you can always call me too if you have any questions on it. I don't always do updates here at this board, but there's a lot going on. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Very well said. I love the proof of concept kind of conversation because that's truly where we are in conversations up north. Are we able to get this done? How much could it cost? What's the level of service that we need to do? All of that is not going to happen in the next 2 years, right? We're going to still be talking through a planning process over the next 2 years. So will service be there up north first? Yeah, but we're also going to have completed a federal, the planning process, which will include the South and the clarification on the South. We will have conversations with UP down here. We will have opportunities to do station area development. So there can be some benefit down to the South while service, conversations about service are still up north. Very
Mayor,
well said.
Mayor Shaw.
Yes, back several years ago, there was a real project out in California that was a similar proposal to what this is, to, link communities for commuters and stuff and save a lot of expenses and whatnot. And, it's all a good proposal. It all sounds like it could be beneficial, especially for those that don't go on I-25 very often. And when they do, it's a nightmare because of all the commuters going back and forth. So, I get it. It's a great thing. It could be a great thing, but they did this out in California, and there's a lot of citizens here in Colorado that are from California, and there's been different debates and, remarks about all that over the years. But they got their project going, millions and millions of dollars into it, and then a politician decided, well, it's a bad idea, and they just abandoned it for whatever reason. I don't know all the details of it, but it left the public going, what's going on here? It wasn't a vote of the people to abandon the idea. So this is an issue that will come about, and people will protest it because of the events out in California. They want to know security on, is their investment in this, all their tax dollars, actually going to be followed through with? I think that's something that needs to be addressed, and a solid plan in place that once it's in, it's not going anywhere. And, we get a new mayor or a new governor that decides, oh, well, this is a bad idea, let's abandon it. We need to keep the voice of the people to be heard on that, which they didn't do out in California. That's all I got for now.
Thank you. Commissioner Williams.
Mine's just the last comment. And so Andy, you might be able to pull out all the arrows now. It's more towards Lynette. I want to just make sure that we realize that if they're going to build the Front Range passenger rail, and then they're going to build the rail from DIA up to Steamboat Springs, that all the skiers have to go through DIA. And that is a terrible airport compared to Colorado Springs. We are, I think, the #1 airport in the state. And so we need to make sure that we continue the economic development. We have to get people over to the Colorado Springs Airport, because that's just a pleasure to fly out of. DIA is a nightmare to fly out of. So, I'm not even picking on you. I'm picking on DIA now.
Thank you. You have the head of Mountain Metro there, so you can talk to her about a shuttle service to the to the train station, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All righty. I think one of the concerns that I keep hearing during the legislative session, this will be the last thing, and then we'll get you off the hot seat.
Oh,
You
fine.
can
I
go,
like the hot seat. I'm perfect.
Okay. All right. I think a lot of the frustration people are seeing also is the Front Range passenger rail keeps getting included in a lot of legislative bills that essentially don't have a lot to do with the Front Range passenger rail. Let me give you an example. There is a bill, I think it passed last year, that we were discussing about if a train stalls out in a city or stops for whatever reason, and our tracks are blocked, which happens quite regularly in the city of Fountain. And because my city is pretty much, between two sets of tracks. And the fine for that train should come back to the communities that have had to reroute their citizens. They've had to have PD out there. They've had to reroute their public safety. Some of these trains are stopped for 5 minutes. Some of them can be stopped for hours. The fee goes to Front Range passenger rail.
Let me clarify, ma'am. It does not. That was taken out of the bill. We have
Okay,
not in
well,
that
thank
bill
you.
at all.
But that's just an example of little places that Front Range passenger rail keeps getting included in bills. So it is making people wonder, how are we ever going to really know what the true cost of this is if it is put into so many of these other little bills and little pieces. And so if you could just take that information back and say, I think that's something of great concern to people, is trying to figure out what the true cost of this is, not just what we're being taxed or feed or whatever, we're going to do it. And then, and then collecting it, and like things like this too. So, because I know there's a fee on there that we already charge. I used to do a truck rental company. There's a fee on there we already charge, $2 per day on rental cars statewide. Something like the Colorado State Safety Tax fee. If you try to track it down and see where the money goes, you can't find it. So I think that's going to be super important to make sure these different monies are line itemed and we can follow them where they go. So that's just final comment. Anybody else? Andy, anything to wrap it up, or Kimberly, any last thing?
I really appreciate Andy coming down. This is a great briefing and a lot to discuss. It sounds like over the next 2 years. And think about, is there anything in the meantime that we could be doing to engage more fully? It sounds like we've got great representation, but if there's other things we could be doing, by all means, just let us know.
Very appreciated.
Yeah.
Really appreciate the time, and I appreciate the questions. We are not here to shy away from the hard questions. We want the hard questions. We welcome them. That's what makes the conversation better. That's why we're here. That's my job. So thank you very much. Continue to work with Councilwoman Crow Iverson. She is an excellent voice for your region, as well as the other members of our district, and we'll continue to communicate up to the policymakers that make the decisions for us about the importance of the southern portion, as well as the entire corridor and the importance of this entire project as we move forward. So thank you, Andy. Thank you.
I think, Councilmember.
I was just gonna say, if you'd like to add a little bit to our agenda every month and have an update for me if there is one, just since it's top of mind and that train's moving, I'm happy to update
Don't
from our
get us
board meeting.
started. We could go on a lot of those.
That was funny. And from my governance, because I'm on the governance committee piece, which might be the most interesting to this group, I'm happy to, a couple minutes, update you to keep you all happy, Holly, and let you know how the skiers are flying through DIA. Awesome.
I think that's a really good idea. And we'll talk, Chair and I will talk about how to make that happen. Maybe as we do like the stack report and the CDOT report, between passenger rail update and even what's happening with, we kind of referenced the CTIO that's really distributing the funding that's coming in through car rental fees and others. If we can keep that on the board's radar, I think that'd be super helpful. So.
And I don't believe we have a representation on CTIO right now. I know it was Travis Easton with the city, and I believe they're in the process of selecting a new one. However, in between, I don't believe Hannah Parsons is on today, but she usually can give those good updates to us as well, because, with her role. But that's another update, as I believe the city's in the process of appointing a new person to that board right now, and I don't know who it is.
Can you kind of push that and get it done? Because I'd like to see somebody be on there by the next meeting. I know your government was a little bit different than mine, but squeaky wheel and all that kind of stuff. Let's get rid of the train. Yeah. And Kimberly, you're welcome to keep us updated on the rail yard project. Like I said, we don't need to be siloed off on these things, and because it all is literally running on the same track. Thank you for stopping by today. Any last thing you'd like to say? All right, thank you very much. Okay. All right, have we chewed that one? Moving on. All righty. Thank you. Danelle, you are up for the long range transportation plan status, which is very appropriate after the discussion we just had, right?
Yes, thank you for having me. We just have a quick update this afternoon. If you could go to the next slide, please, Jared. Most of you have seen this slide before for any of our new folks in the room or online. The long range transportation plan, goodness. PPACG serves as the metropolitan planning organization for our urbanized Colorado Springs area, which is the map here shown on the slide. And as such, we're required federally to develop the long-range transportation plan for the region. And really, this pulls together existing planning efforts, studies, things like that from all of the local jurisdictions, from the member governments here. But two things we just want to point out on here. First, that projects have to be consistent with the long-range transportation plan in order to receive federal funding. The second is that long-range transportation plan has to be fiscally constrained. Basically, that means that we have projected out how much money we believe the region will receive from now until 2025. And the amount of projects that we put in the plan can't go beyond that. And we update this plan every 5 years. Slide, please. So this is just our update on the process and the status. Our little red arrow there is kind of where we are. We're hoping to move very quickly into phase 4, which is our really review phase, where we'll bring the draft plan to this board through our committee system. We will hold a public comment period and have open houses so that we can share all of this information with the public and receive feedback. Unfortunately, we're in a little bit of a development cycle right now. We're developing that document, as I said, but we're also going through the travel demand model and the greenhouse gas modeling process. This is our first time working on the greenhouse gas process through the state since the rule was passed. And we're hoping that doesn't delay us too long, but we recognize that there may be some hiccups that will delay that. Our hope is to adopt the LRTP in January of 2025, as that's kind of our the end of our compliance period with FHWA and FTA. And that's really what I have for you today. We will, of course, bring you more updates as more things happen. But if you have any questions, happy to answer them now, or please email me or John, and we'll get back to you.
Are there any questions? Okay, thank you
so much.
The next one is the item C, the evaluation of our executive director. And let's see, who's coming up for that? Sherry, sorry.
Thank you. Sherry Hoffman again, PPACG HR Generalist. In your board packet is the timeline for the upcoming evaluation for the executive director. The email containing the confidential evaluation will come from Employers Council again this year. So the evaluation will be very similar to last year. I will send out the email address to you guys just so you know what to look for, because it's not at Employers Council. And you can also let your IT departments know in case it gets put into phishing or spam. So that's about it. Prior or after the October board, though, the evaluation link will go out to you guys. So any questions?
And we shortened it last year. We're staying with the shortened one this year. So there's only one to look for. So just get it done so I don't have to pester you. How's that? All right.
Thank you.
Can't believe it's that time of year again. Thank you. All righty. Thank you, Holly. That takes us on to item 7, other reports and minutes, CDOT monthly update. Not sure if we're in.
There were conflicts, with CDOT and numerous events today. So you've got the slide in your packet for the active projects. But I think we were otherwise just going to keep moving forward.
Okay. We're going to pass, Andy, if we can pass these around, and takes us to Holly. I'll get started on stack while we pass these around.
Okay. I just wanted to give a report for the Statewide Transportation Advisory Committee. I mentioned earlier Policy Directive 14. Policy Directive 14 on this first page, you'll say it establishes kind of the overarching policy and objectives for development and implementation of the statewide transportation plan, which we just talked about, our regional transportation plan. And so everything we do in our regional transportation plan has to go up into the state. Well, this month we discussed policy Directive 14. And if you look on the third page, where the Transportation Commission, or where CDOT intends to go with this. So they have the first one, advancing transportation and the current metrics, and by the way, our condolences go out to the 2 CDOT employees who were killed last week in Grand Junction, is to keep down vehicle crashes, fatalities, serious injuries, vulnerable road users, which are walkers, bike riders, scooter riders, and employee safety. And then in Fix Our Roads, the current metrics are bridges, pavement, maintenance, highway assets, and transit assets. And then under sustainably increased transportation choice is to decrease congestion and increase reliability of travel time and multimodal options and environmental impact. Out of the goals they had last year, they had 34 goals. CDOT only met 14, which is 40%. So they just reduced the goals for next year. And this made the stack very angry because they took out primarily increasing travel time reliability and reducing congestion. So that led to a vote where we actually voted down the changes in the policy directive as a statewide transportation advisory commission. And that will go to the Transportation Commission next Wednesday. We voted, all of us except for Commissioner Odoricio out of Adams County representing Dr. Cog, I think. I think he represents Dr. Cog, voted down these changes to the policy directive mostly because it really puts us all on buses and Coloradans like their cars. So we feel like all of the money, first of all, I will say right off the top, it is not CDOT's fault that the state legislature does not prioritize transportation. But I've seen it happen in Las Vegas, Nevada. I've seen it happen in Utah. You can actually build your way out of congestion, believe it or not. If you build the roads, you can build your way out of congestion. And they have 14 lanes in Salt Lake City. And it's pretty exciting to have to go across 5 lanes just to get into the hop lane on the left side. But it's a different type of philosophy in Utah. I told everyone I never really should stop going to Utah to visit my family, but I happen to like them. And so was very frustrating that we've seen them. The governor's priority truly is to push us, push his, no offense, his rail project, and that wasn't meant, but to push us onto buses and trains, and we just love our cars. And pretty much everyone expressed that. I started off the discussion by saying, I'm not about to give up driving my car somewhere. And everybody else kind of jumped on. I was very surprised. And so there was one comment was, if we build it, we'll have to maintain it. And to me, it was just the wrong direction CDOT's going. And so I'm sure the Transportation Commission will approve this next week, which means we'll be wanting to, you'll notice the projects we approved are, we're going to look for projects that, increase safety on roads or those kind of things. The projects will still fit in to what these metrics are. It was just very frustrating for me, a stack that happened. And we had a good discussion, and hopefully the Transportation Commission will listen to us. So that's it.
Okay, Andy, can you guys scan this in and send it out to everybody?
Yes, we can do that for sure. It'll go out this afternoon. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, because I appreciate Jared getting it online. I don't know how you did that, but hats off to you for doing it. I'm impressed. And everybody knows I'm not a techie person, so I'm amazed when people can do wonderful things. So anyways, thank you for getting that on there, and get this out to people so they can copy it themselves. So that would be great. Thank you. And thank you, Holly, that's a huge board. And I've been to a few of those meetings over the years, and they're very long and they're very, they can be tedious, right? But it's also fascinating to see what's going on around the whole state. So thank you for attending those meetings.
I told them, they're putting reducing congestion into an appendix. And I told them I didn't appreciate being placed in the appendix. So
you don't care if you're on the front page, you just don't want to be in the appendix.
I don't.
All right. Thank you very much. That takes us on to the executive director's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just two things real briefly. One, just wanted to bring to your attention, and I'll send this flyer out as well, but we have got a traffic safety, child safety seat event coming up next Wednesday, September 18th at UC Health Park, where the Vibes play for car seat checks. Just kind of wanted to mention, we're doing a ton of outreach these days. I know we were in Cripple Creek last month, but just all over the community to emphasize traffic safety, especially around kids safely in their seats and in high schools practicing good driver habits and so forth. So you're going to see a lot more events, I think, here in the coming weeks and months for sure. So Trish, our traffic safety champion, is just knocking it out of the park. So, but I'll send this around so you've got the information. The other thing I just wanted to mention real briefly is we're going to have on the agenda in October an update on our draft budget, not up for approval at this point, but looking for direction. I know we're a little bit behind in terms of being able to calculate local dues because we don't have all the assessed valuation data yet. I know El Paso County hasn't quite posted all the information yet. I'm assuming it's based on some of the challenges around property evaluations and appeals and so forth this year. So that's delayed us a little bit in calculating what the local dues will be from each one of our local jurisdictions. We normally give that to you, I think this month, roughly thereabouts. Is that right, Carol? So we'll have it in August instead, and it may be a placeholder projection based on CPI of about 1.9%. Is that correct? Is what we're seeing in the Denver overall CPI index. So more to come next month. We're going to start digging into the budget in October, so we'll have that on the workshop and the regular agenda for discussion and direction in October.
Okay, so if everybody kind of just said maybe best guesstimate 2% tax dues increase.
Roughly, yes.
Okay.
2%. I think that gets us in the ballpark.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, you can kind of.
Yeah.
And since Colorado Springs and El Paso County are the two big contributors to that, that's a good thing to know, right? And 2% is good to know. Yeah.
And I should mention, we did take direction from the board last year to say, instead of doing like an increase every 5 years or 3 years or whatever, do it based on inflation or some other metrics. We thought this would be a good way to move forward. So yeah, we'll try it out and see how this works.
Okay. All righty. All right. Thank you very much. That was short and quick and to the point. I read somewhere the other day, or in January, kids in car seats have to go backwards up to 4 years now. Is that what they were saying? Somebody's nodding yes. Yeah. So the kids are going to go backwards 4 years to 40 pounds or something. I remember my kids being like 2 years and their legs were like, that's going to have to reinvent some new car seats or something. Yeah. Okay. All righty. Okay. And I really appreciate us doing the car seat, because I know it's really hard to get a car seat in and get it in correctly. And used to be a really sad high percentage of car seats that were not installed correctly. I'm sure my kids are way smarter than I was with car seats though. So, all right. Okay. That takes us to member entity announcements. Anybody besides Woodland Park and Cripple Creek? No. Just teasing you guys. You got a lot going on up there. Well, yes.
Madam Chair, I'd like to again thank Karen Rowe from PPACG for assisting with, we're still working, trying to get some like bridges through the region. I think we still have some hurdles to overcome, but I just wanted to say thanks to PPACG for having Karen here, because without her, we'd be out on our own. So.
Okay, thank you.
She was here earlier, and we'll make sure she hears that. We'll pass that along. Okay. But I know she's working with Green Mountain Falls and Park County for a joint application that's going to the feds for bridge repair. So we're happy to provide that service.
Yeah, I think it also involves El Paso County as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Andy, I'd like to give you a shout out. I actually had a CAC member call me and give appreciation to your leadership in PPACG, and one of the best run organizations they've ever volunteered for. So,
well,
yes.
Well, thank you. But I'm also going to deflect because I rarely go to CAC meetings, and it's our staff that run awesome.
I know, but
CAC
it comes,
process
it just
between Danelle and Jess and Jared. Kind of, they're the brains behind the operation. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. It was totally out of the blue too. It was just a random, and they made a special phone call to me. It wasn't like, by the way, I have a few on the phone. It was a special phone call. So that was really nice. So thank you. All right, Woodland Park, you have to have something going on for the fall. Come on, there's leaf peeping and all that stuff going on.
The leaves change daily,
That's true.
literally.
There you go.
Even at my house, I'm in Woodland Park, about 88, almost 8,500 feet. And heading up to Cripple Creek this evening for the CML regional meeting, and we'll see what that's looking like. I don't know if you've been up there recently. Probably. You were up there yesterday, weren't you?
Yeah, I've been all over. Yeah, actually the first large patch of aspens on Gillette Flats, which is one of those premier areas as you're making the big loop. One big patch has started to make the turn. So I think officially we can say that it's started at a significant level, but do want to announce though, if I may, Madam Chair, that there is a new event that's going to be happening in Divide. And I believe it is this coming weekend. It's called Harvest Fest. It's going to be held at Paradox Brewing in Divide, and it is in part a celebration of the 125th anniversary of Teller County. So thank you, El Paso, for the gold mine. Anyway, it's a lot of kids events, and then lots of food trucks, and of course Paradox is right there if you like craft beers, and so it should be a really fun event. And I believe it's 1 to 5 for the kids events, and then there'll be music after 5.
All right. Well, if you have a flyer or something, send it on down to Andy and he can get it out to us. Colorado Springs, anything going on? Big balloon festival over?
We never have anything going on.
I know you don't. I know you never have
Nothing.
anything going on. Yeah.
No, no, the balloon festival was a hit. It was great. And my colleague went to the memorial this morning. She might want to talk about, I had another conflict.
And you were there as well, Michelle Tallarico, City of Colorado Springs City Council. I thought it was very, very well done. It was a beautiful ceremony, and it was very touching, and I think well done. So there was maybe 50, 60 people. It was a good turnout. Good way to.
Yeah. The speaker was great. So
He was wonderful.
I can't think of his name. He was
Lieutenant Colonel General Gould.
Yes.
I believe Lieutenant General Gould.
Was it
I'm sorry.
Cheyenne, was
Lieutenant
inside
General
Cheyenne
Gould.
Mountain on 9/11. So if you need a good Veterans Day speaker, Memorial Day speaker, 9/11 speaker,
was great.
He was really good. Yeah, he's really
Madam
good.
Chair, if I could share one more thing, our ceremony this morning was very good. It always is. And we have a very talented commissioner sitting on our board here. And Eric shared and sang the national anthem for us this morning. And it was lovely.
Thank you.
All right.
You're welcome.
Sounds like a fundraiser. How many songs can you get Eric to sing or something like that?
Card filled up for today.
Card is filled up for today. Okay, well, if you're ever down Fountain Way on a Friday, look up our American Legions or our VFWs down there. Between the two of them, they keep us well fed down there, and their prices are very reasonable. They're open to the public. So when they have steak fries, fish fries, fried chicken, you name it, they have it. It's like $15, $17 for a steak and a baked potato. I mean, you don't need to, you take half of it home. So they all have Facebook pages about what they're serving that night. So if you get caught down that way, you're always welcome to drop into either one of those places and feel the love. All right. Anything else online? Anybody? Oh, I have the mayor of Rama there with his hand up again.
Hello. Some of you might know every year we have annual Rama Days event, second weekend of August every year. And, we had to shut down for a couple of years over COVID, but starting to pick the ball back up, and this year we had a better turnout than what we proposed, and it turned out really well. We're hoping for a bigger year next year. We have found a couple of kinks we need to work out, and we're going to get that underway so we're ready for next year. So hopefully get more people drawn in and have more entertainment for everybody next year. So that's on our agenda for that. And then we have evaporation pond relocation project we've been working on. It took us 7 years to get it underway, but we broke ground this year and we are well underway of getting this project completed. Hopefully by the first of the year, we'll have it all complete and signed, sealed, and delivered. So that's all I really got for an update for Rama.
All right, and thank you. And thank you for being here today. Commissioner Stone.
Yeah, this isn't an announcement, but it's a, I guess, a project that Teller County has started working on and looking for other partners in doing it. We may have a legislative path, but it may just simply be a policy path. I think it can be a policy path, but is going to CDPHE to get them to develop what we are calling a small projects division within their wastewater division or water and wastewater divisions. And actually what reminded me of it, of course, was the mayor's comments about 7 years to get to where they've turned a spade. Well, Teller County, we are 4 years in, still haven't turned a spade and working on a very small project that serves 150 people. But the price of it has ballooned from $5 million to pushing close to $30 million, which is not doable at that. But it's because CDPHE treats every project the same, whether it's 150 users or 500,000 users. And what that means is, unfortunately, is that the large users, which is things like Colorado Springs Utilities, Aurora Public Utilities, Denver Utilities, et cetera, are soaking up 95% of the resources, putting them on the same calendar for a project that will serve hundreds of thousands of people as small projects, which could be easily, worked through and approved, whether it be, evaporation ponds, our small facility in Teller County. I know Green Mountain Falls is weighing what their options are, and I'm sure they don't want to hear that if their system is ruled obsolete, that not only do they have to replace it, but they'll be penalized if they don't replace it. But the waiting line is currently 10,000 projects behind for CDPHE. So we are going to be pushing really hard to create a small projects division so that they can just have teams that work on these small projects around the state of Colorado, and then another one that are specialized, in these large, huge, massive enterprise-sized projects, so that hopefully become more efficient for both. So
I think that sounds like a great idea, and I think anything we can do to help with that, you probably have the board support behind it. And if it needs to go legislative, that I cannot see that not being a bipartisan bill, because we all need it.
And I might suggest, Madam Chair, I love the idea, and you got here after I introduced Angie Martell, who's heading up our environmental planning efforts now. We run a water quality management committee with sanitation districts and other operators from across the region that come together on a regular basis, and happy to vet it through them, try to get some feedback, because they're all dealing with the same issue. I'm sure it's large and small operators and everybody in between. But yet happy to talk further and see what we can do to get some technical minds together to really kind of flesh something out.
Did you say flesh or flesh something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And just to give a small anecdote about the level of frustration, again, we're 4 years in, finally got a temporary permit issued with some follow-ups to get our general permit. And then we get a notice from CDPHE that says, hey, great news. We have a new streamlined process. So we would like you to start over and resubmit your permit. So, I give them full kudos for attempting to implement a new system, but not to make everybody start over.
No, if you're in the line, you should just stay in the line. Yeah.
Oh, Madam Chair, one last thing. This discussion has reminded me, the Reg 43 revision that's going through right now, Eagle County, on the draft that's online, Eagle County has made some proposed comments or proposed language to it that would pretty much mandate that if anyone had a cesspool after this thing passes, they would have to replace it. It would be defined as a failed system if you had a prohibited system from that point on. I don't think that language will make it into the final, just my opinion, because there's already comments on it for legacy systems. But just kind of something to watch out for, that Reg 43 revision.
Okay. Since I have both chairs of the legislative committee here, where are we on getting through the RFPs? Are you still going through them? Oh, okay. All righty. Okay.
Madam Chair, I can flesh it out a little bit further as well. And probably not able to share who the finalists are, but we're doing interviews with two lobbying firms later this afternoon. So should be able to come to a decision very, very soon. So with Jared and I meeting with our two co-chairs and our finalists, yeah, happy to get this to the finish line.
Yeah. Okay. All righty. All right. Anything else? All right. If you got an idea for a bill, I suggest you get it to a legislature sooner rather than later. This is the time they're doing research and they have the time to do it. So if you got an idea, now's the time. All right. We are adjourned 1:15. Not bad, Andy.